So thank you very much for joining our FASH 455 internship in industry story series. This series intends to help our students better understand the many exciting job opportunities available in the fashion industry, especially those related to trade, sourcing, and supply chain management, and also compliance. Now, these are my favorite topics. So this time we are very lucky to have one of our recent students, Victoria Langro. So Victoria actually have more titles than me. True, yeah. So she's a marketing and operation management major, fashion business minor, honors student, and I have a great pleasure working with Victoria last year, right? Last year through the Summer Scholar, UD Summer Scholar program. So welcome, Victoria. So the reason I invited you here is because I know you just did a very fantastic internship with Coach. So, and also the title is very interesting. It's called Global Trade Compliance, right? So why not you just first briefly introduce yourself and maybe give us a quick overview about your internship, like what does a typical day look like? What was your job responsibility, and how do you see this internship kind of fit into your kind of interest?
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you for having me. So this internship was really cool. It was like you said, a global trade compliance position, which is within the supply chain department. And basically, the parent company is called Tapestry, and the three brands below it are Coach, Kate Spade, and Stuart Weitzman. And my team worked across all three brands. Some other interns just worked specifically for one, but for ours, it was across all three brands. And my main responsibilities, a lot was just kind of getting a good overview of the whole trade compliance team, because there are so many different aspects and so many different responsibilities, which I didn't really know about. So on the day-to-day, I would kind of sit in on meetings sometimes, shadow some people, just put on like email chains just to see how the workers communicate with each other. And this really, my main takeaway was that work in the sourcing world really changes from day to day, and not one day is the same as the day before, because a lot of their job is just kind of mitigating problems. And so for example, I sat in on a one-on-one of someone who was communicating with vendors and saying that they found factories that weren't approved by Tapestry and having to get those factories removed. And then I also was responsible for just doing some 7501 reports, which I didn't know what those were before coming into the job. So I was responsible for obtaining vendor invoices from Tapestry's customs brokers, and filling out a bunch of Excel spreadsheets, which was also something I didn't know about the sourcing world. There's lots of Excel spreadsheets, and also just kind of, again, mitigating issues. So mitigating issues with the invoices and making corrections, say if they put the wrong country of origin or whatever it may be. So yeah, and also just getting general visibility to the different trade programs that Tapestry is a part of, which I think the FASH 455 course helped provide like a really good base understanding of what those were, because if I didn't know what like a free trade agreement was, I think I would have been very lost. But yeah, just definitely different every day, which always was exciting, especially working virtually. It kept it very interesting.
Sure, thank you, Victoria. It does sound very exciting. Many different kind of type of job, and also I love you mentioned several keywords or jargons we've learned in FASH 455. So before we jump to the course part, so what kind of skill sets you find are most relevant or most important for you to succeed in that internship?
I would say the main two skill sets would be organizational skills and communication. First, with organizational, everyone in the sourcing world has to be very organized with their documentation, because that was another thing I learned. There's a lot of documents and a lot of important agreements that you have to keep on file and be ready to pull out whenever anyone requests it. So whether it be an invoice or receipts, because teammates might request them, vendors might request them, or you might need it from vendors. So definitely being organized. And then with communication, there's so much communication both internally and externally. So externally would be with the vendors and suppliers and factories, and being able to have professional communication with them and answer promptly. And then also internally, it really made me realize how cross-functional like sourcing is, and how much you work with the design team and product development, because the design team might want to make a certain Coach bag, but we're kind of the rule followers and say, oh, well, you can't use this particular material because it's, maybe it's not with Tapestry's, sourcing guidelines or whatever it may be. So just constantly working with the other areas of the fashion industry to kind of tell them what they can and can't do and make sure everyone's compliant.
Sure. So truly, your answer reminds me of what many things we've covered in Fast 455, because when we see the products, they're so fashionable products, so kind of variety kind of choices, but really what's behind the scene are many day-to-day, very detailed, and could be tedious work, but they're very important. How to comply with the rules. It's never a vacuum. There are many important rules affecting companies' sourcing strategy and their logistic and their supply chain. So talking about this, do you find anything you've learned from Fast 455 relevant or helpful with your internship?
Yeah, I think that taking Fast 455 was like pretty fundamental to my success at the internship, and I think it provided me with a really good like strong foundation of knowledge that was really helpful in being able to pick up on the day-to-day tasks of my job, because for my internship we did spend the first few weeks kind of reading over a bunch of documentation about just like what is country of origin, what is yarn forward versus fabric forward,
yarn forward
which,
okay.
And I think Bash 455 did a much better job of teaching what those concepts are rather than just reading a bunch of documents. So I think that it was really helpful, and it made the everyday tasks a lot more easy to understand, and also just having general industry knowledge and learning about the supply chain and having a knowledge of the capabilities of different countries and understanding why Tapestry might be sourcing from one country versus another. I think that was really helpful. And also just the whole course in general, I didn't know much about sourcing at all, and I think a lot of fashion students don't know that that's an area that they could potentially work in. So it really helped to like broaden my horizons, and was a course that catered to a lot of my strengths that not necessarily other fashion courses would have.
Sure, thank you so much. I'm glad to learn that you mentioned the entire course is relevant and helpful.
Yeah.
Sure, right. Sure. My next question, I think should also be highly relevant to many students. So they wonder like how usually students can find internship in the sourcing area, like particularly to your case, like how you landed with this great opportunity.
Yeah. So I started my internship search during last winter, and I was kind of just looking everywhere on the internet for any sort of opportunities. And I was looking at a website, stylecareers.com, which has a bunch of job openings and in the fashion industry. And I stumbled upon the Tapestry internship, and this was one of the few companies I found that offered like very specific internship areas, and one of them was trade compliance, which I don't think I had come across any other companies that had offered something so specific to me. So that really stood out to me. So I obviously applied, and the first round of interviews was just a video interview. So you were presented with 4 questions and you had to film yourself answering them. And it was more of a get to know you and kind of why are you interested in this position and the company. And then after that round, it was a one-on-one interview with the woman who ended up being my supervisor throughout the whole internship. And that was more just kind of learning about my interest in sourcing specifically and why I wanted to work in this area, because I think a lot of fashion students always go towards the merchandising buying angle. And so they definitely want to know why you are interested in sourcing, because a lot of schools don't really focus on it. But yeah, I'd say like with the whole interview process, I realized that most companies are looking for an interest and a passion rather than skills necessarily, because also I worked with one other intern in the trade compliance department, and she had a really interesting background. She had originally been planning to go to medical school, and she kind of had a career switch. And so she didn't have much background knowledge, but still she was able to succeed just as well as I did, because all of the skills are teachable. You just have to have like that initial interest and passion in the sourcing world.
Sure, definitely. I think this is so helpful, So my last question to you, Langro, is more like a, sorry, Victoria. So it's more like a kind of crystal ball, like in the next 5 or 10 years. How do you see yourself in a fashion industry? Do you have any particular kind of interest or particular type of job that you're passionate about?
Yeah, so with my background in business and fashion, I think that there's a lot of opportunities for me in the industry, and it's just kind of a matter of narrowing it down with my job search. And I think that sourcing is definitely something I'm interested in and want to continue gaining experience in, because I did work virtually, so I would like love the opportunity to work in person for a company in sourcing, just to know, to get a new perspective on it. But I also am interested in exploring other areas, because I think with this degree, you really can go anywhere because you learn so many different skills. So I'm also interested in learning more about marketing. I have had marketing internships in the past, so going down that route. I'm also not like closing any doors on merchandising. I think I'm really open to a lot of things. It's all just a matter of gaining experiences and kind of seeing where all of these opportunities lead me.
Definitely. I have no doubt that you will be a rising star in the fashion industry. So please don't forget about us when you get famous. Okay. So thank you. Yeah. So thank you so much again for joining us. Definitely hope to stay in touch.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and also thank you for watching this series. And if you are, a fashion, professionals in the industry, especially in the trade and sourcing area, and would like to share your experiences, feel free to reach out to me. Okay, and see you next time.